Devastating poll numbers? Apparently, that's what presidential campaigns are all about. Here's what former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had to say about President Biden's dreadful performance in the polls.
Right now, we must win the election. It's 1 year out. And just to remind, 1 year out from the election in 2011 for the 212, President Obama was not in good shape in the polls. One poll, 5-11. He was not in good shape in the polls. But that's what campaigns are about. So what is it that is what drives you? What is your passion? Is it saving the planet? Is it protecting personal anatomy, freedom? Is it fairness in our education system and the rest? Whatever. The election will make a difference, because if you care about justice, social justice, economic justice, environmental justice, personal freedom, the Democrats have to win this election. And then maybe in the unifying way, we can have some of these issues become bipartisan to save the planet and save our democracy and the rest. So when people say, oh, well, Biden's numbers are behind, I say, you know what? That's the way it is. That's the way it was for Obama. That's the way it is for him. He must win, and that's the path we're on.
But is that true? Journalist Matt Iglesias fact-checked what Nancy Pelosi had to say there in the interview and wrote on X that the polling was pretty close at times between Romney and Obama, but Obama almost always led, and his coalition was advantaged in the Electoral College. Biden is currently way down, and I think the Electoral College skew is unclear. Dobbs has probably eroded Trump's edge, but to what extent? As for one category of voters, Black Americans, showing signs of slipping away from Biden in 2024, according to new reporting from the Washington Post. Now, black voter turnout fell during the 2022 midterm elections compared to the previous midterms, and losing these voters could be fatal for the re-election of Joe Biden in 2024.
Only 24% of Democrats say they are better off financially under Biden, per a new FT Michigan Ross poll. Political statistician Nate Silver has voiced skepticism on Joe Biden's re-election run, saying Democrats would be taking a huge risk by replacing Biden, but they're also taking a huge risk by nominating him. If Biden can't keep up with the schedule of a typical sitting president running for re-election, or is prone to making errors when he does, voters and the media are going to notice that, and Biden will wear his 80-plus years like an albatross around his neck. I was kind of surprised to see Nate Silver even offering this kind of critique. He's not exactly what is considered to be an anti-establishment figure, but he says, look, I'm looking at the numbers, and of course there's risk associated with changing horses in midstream. That would be a rather unprecedented move. But also the numbers are looking so bad, and this is what Matt Iglesias obviously was pointing to. If you compare this to other races that were close, this looks even worse than most, because unlike Obama in 2012, Biden is actually behind, and meaningfully behind, in the necessary swing states to win.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big Nate Silver fan. I often find that he's kind of taken out of context, or sometimes he'll say what he thinks the polls are suggesting, or what the trends are suggesting. And then I will see a lot of people like accusing him of advocating for that thing, as if he's saying that he doesn't like Biden and he wants Biden gone, when really what he's just pointing out is that historically Biden is extremely weak. Yeah. The age question is huge. He's pointing out, part of running for president is actually campaigning, like generating enthusiasm, visiting these states where he's really down and bringing people back on board, or exciting people who are maybe going to show up on election day, maybe not. Is he capable of doing that? That's a question we don't exactly have answered. We don't have clear ways to tell. And really what I read the whole column he had, what Nate was saying is that we don't have access to this information, but the people around Biden do. And it would benefit, if you think keeping Trump out of office is important, it would benefit the country for them to speak up, because maybe Biden has it in him to really, to campaign harder than he did when he was 4 years younger during COVID and he didn't really have to do much.
Right.
Maybe he has it in him, but it seems like perhaps he doesn't. And I appreciated Iglesias pointing out what Nancy Pelosi said there about the polls was just not true. Absolutely, there were times in the Obama-Romney matchup where there was some polling for Romney showing him a point or a couple points ahead. That was generally general election polling, which does not matter. What we're talking about here with Biden is him being way behind in the 5 key swing states, which actually does matter.
Yes, by double-digit amounts.
Yes, plus the Electoral College advantage now heavily favoring Republicans, just given how everything has shaken out. Democrats concentrating in California and New York, these very populous swing states like Pennsylvania and Michigan and other places becoming more conservative or more Republican than they were when Obama was running.
Yeah, I think the black voter point is also an interesting one. I love the statistic. Malika Jabali, a journalist at Essence, wrote this article up at Current Affairs years ago where she did a deep dive into the politics of what happened in Wisconsin. And she did it both narrative interviews and the statistical analysis to show that there were these 88,000 black voters that stayed home after having voted in 2012 and 2016. And that for all of the discussion that we got after 2016 about the white working class and what's going on, is America actually just getting more conservative? She pointed out that but for some demographic shifts like that, but for not galvanizing certain populations, but for Hillary going and speaking at some Midwestern universities that she decided to skip, we could have had a very different outcome. And looking at black voters narratively, when I hear interviews, when I listen to black media, when I look at what's going on in the comment section of black political sites, I'm seeing a lot of folks increasingly resistant to the narrative that says, you have to do this. You have to bend the knee and vote for Biden. If you don't vote for Biden, you don't care about black people and immigrants and gay people and all of those things. At this point, black people and immigrants and Arabs and all these things are saying, we're the ones that you're weaponizing to get people to turn out to vote, and we're the ones that are telling you that we're feeling disrespected and ignored by Joe Biden's policies. You don't get to just be, for decades, marginally better than the alternative and think that's going to keep us in your coffers. You already lost one of the biggest threats, biggest carrots that you were dangling, which was Roe v. Wade. You haven't shown that you could have true guardianship and stewardship over issues that you know are very important to us. Obama had an opportunity to codify Roe, chose not to, and now you're going to use that as a cudgel to get us to go and vote for one of the least popular and least remarkable Democratic candidates of all time? No, ma'am. Yeah,
there's something about the narrative about how abortion is favorable to Dems, and clearly it has been so far. It's helped turn out Democratic voters. It's
not black voters. Apparently,
it's prevailed in a couple states that are even red states, Ohio in this most recent election. But the way the media characterizes that is almost beginning to become like Democrats don't have to put in any effort. It doesn't matter how unpopular Joe Biden is. We're saved because abortion is out there, and it's like that's what they're running on.
It's distasteful.
Let's not. I don't know that that's going to in a presidential election, a presidential matchup with an incumbent this unpopular and this old and this perhaps unable to campaign. Now again, it might be Trump. And Trump also might not be able to campaign to the extent he was previously because he's going to be fighting off multiple trials. So we might have this weird repeat of the COVID election where no one is actually doing any campaigning or doing any rallies because we have these very elderly candidates with serious baggage tied up in their own affairs. But
I cannot wait.
I cannot wait.
Stick around. We're rising for you after this.